Hello, my name is Paul Marchbanks, and this is Digging in the Dirt. The eighth and possibly final entry in the Mission Impossible series is upon us, so it's a perfect opportunity for talking about the mashup of action and romance which helps sell such films to a broad audience. My earliest conceptions of romance traced the paths well worn by Disney films, including the classic princess stories and personal favorites like Lady and the Tramp and Bambi, where love found a home in a single partner and lasted, presumably, to the end of their days. Happily Ever After grew rather complicated in the films I saw during secondary school. I still found committed relationships like those tortured but passionate ones between Superman and Lois Lane or Wesley and Buttercup, but these visions of sacrifice and enduring attachment were countered by action films with heroes who swapped out intimate partners regularly. Indiana Jones took up with a different woman in each new installment of the original trilogy, and James Bond, my first was Timothy Dalton, sleeps with two different women in both The Living Daylights and License to Kill. If any sacrifice happens in the Bond films up to this point, it's proffered by the women who die violently due to their proximity to or association with 007. The hero might feel something for the person currently in his arms, but that affection always has an abbreviated lifespan, vanishing rapidly enough to open up space for the beautiful successor just around the corner. As I wrapped up high school and moved into my college years, James Cameron provided something relatively new. A couple women who could handle themselves with little assistance from their male counterparts, Ellen Ripley of Aliens and Sarah Connor of Terminator 2. In these first sequels to two different sci-fi series, Cameron surprised audiences used to action films led by John Wayne, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Sylvester Stallone with alternative female heroes who could fight their own battles, grenade launcher in hand, and who had no time for lovemaking. Though I appreciated the progressive elements of these films, I am a sucker for stories where the action hero, regardless of their gender, falls in love and treats the resulting connection seriously, instead of eventually dismissing romance as an entertaining but unnecessary distraction. I'm a firm believer in working hard to make a lifelong relationship work, and relish seeing such devotion play out on screen. At the turn of the century, the weight given to love in disaster films like Outbreak and Twister, where an estranged couple finds their way back together during a crisis, began appearing in action films like The Bourne Identity. Jason Bourne and Mary Croats are not married, but the film provides solid relationship advice in a few ways. Their first hour together is filled by a nervous Marie rapidly reporting her recent history as she drives across Europe. When she pauses and offers to shut up, Jason encourages her to continue. The sleep-deprived stranger could have justifiably asked for a bit of silence, or quickly shut her up with sarcasm. Instead, he confirms not only that he has been listening closely, but that the sound of her voice has a calming effect. "Please," he says, "if you want to help me, keep talking." Upon reaching Paris, the two briefly consider going their own ways, and Marie asks Jason not to forget her. His response is strangely winning. "How could I forget you? You're the only person I know." The amnesiac's words convey the truth of the matter, but they also capture the kind of healthy, interpersonal nearsightedness with which any serious relationship should begin, in my opinion. Before a newly married couple turns their attention back to business associates, nights on the town with friends, and the calls of family, both partners need to be assured that they matter more to one another than to anyone else. Jason and Marie do not share such a leave and cleave connection at this point, nor does Jason yet remember those ties from his past that he will soon begin to cut. What is clear, soon after this moment, is that he will do anything to preserve Marie's well-being, and when circumstances in the second film make it impossible for them to continue together, Jason does not take up with another woman in either film 3 or film 4. Marie is not disposable. and not easily replaced. Neither is Julia Meade, whom Ethan Hunt marries in the third installment of the Mission Impossible franchise, a film by J.J. Abrams, which brings the director's trademark commitment to lacing the suspense of adventure with the deeper excitement of relational intimacy. This spy film is less concerned with rescuing the world from some madman in a weapon of mass destruction, though these elements inevitably play a part, than it is about a committed couple saving one another's lives. It's that simple. The film starts off with the most excruciatingly painful opening minutes I've ever found in an action film. If you too care deeply about someone and cannot bear the thought of their being tortured and possibly killed right in front of you, you'll likely feel the same way. Ethan's attempt to prevent his loved one's death motivates most of the film's action, making his far-out stunts and risky ventures seem at least psychologically plausible. There's still a bit of predictable fantasy involved in the physical aspects of Ethan's exploits, but this is forgivable, because many of us can imagine doing equally crazy things in an effort to rescue a loved one from danger. The most beautiful element of the film, to my mind, is that both Ethan and Julia save one another, literally. We expect the skilled Ethan to rescue a medical nurse with no combat experience. Less predictable and more welcome is the opportunity given Julia by the filmmakers to use her own professional skill set and a few firearm basics, rapidly shared by Ethan, to protect him from a series of lethal threats. In fact, the penultimate scene I'm referring to provides a great illustration of C.S. Lewis's observation in That Hideous Strength, that the roles between women and men are, quote, more like a dance than a drill, as, quote, the roles are always changing. If you're willing to suspend your disbelief and aren't one of those cynical film viewers who delightedly dissects every implausible aspect of a film, you might find yourself invested in their crucible-tested relationship and hope to see more of it. And, like me, you'd be disappointed to discover that the relationship takes a back seat from that point forward, virtually disappearing in films number 4 and 5, and finally ending amicably in film 6. Because, as every comic book movie ever made keeps reminding us, you can't fight evil without putting a bullseye on your loved ones. It didn't stop Han and Leia from staying together, at least in episodes 5 and 6, but they're the exception that proves the rule. I refuse to count the Mr. and Mrs. Smith film starring Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, but the affair which led to Pitt's divorce and the two actors' new but impermanent marriage has soured me on that movie. Ethan Hunt is not the philanderer who grew so familiar in actioners of the last half of the 20th century. He goes to the wall to defend his friends and risks his life repeatedly to save the women who follow Julia, including fellow international spy Ilsa Faust, and most recently, the professional thief Grace. As of film 7, he hasn't jumped in bed with either of the latter two, so it will be interesting to see where Dead Reckoning, Part 2, takes us. Please, weigh in after seeing the movie. What do you think? Does the film perpetuate any regressive ideas about relationships, or take the opportunity to insert, amidst all the excitement about Tom Cruise's latest death-defying exploits, some choice tidbits about how a healthy romance really works?